girls, it's time for your favorite program, Engendered.
Yeah, Mommy, we're coming right away. Sophia, turn off the gas.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on today's episode on Engendered, where we bring you everything that regards to female gender. I am Victoria Agbi.
Welcome again to the program this evening. My name is Pamela, Ajaero. Now we'll quickly go for a break, and when we return, the program continues.
Once again, welcome to Engendered, a show where we bring you everything about the female gender. And today is going to be a different scenario because we already have our guest in the house who is going to do justice to a very important topic. But before you get to meet our guest and, of course, meet our topic or get to hear our topic, let me read this background for you to show you or to give you an idea of what we're going to be talking about. I'll read it. It says, according to global estimates from the World Health Organization, approximately 1 in 3 women worldwide have experienced physical or sexual violence at some point in their lives. Now, these numbers highlight the alarming prevalence of GBV, that is gender-based violence. It's important to note that GBV is not limited in physical violence. It also includes other forms such as emotional abuse. Well, I'll leave that for our guests to discuss. Now, these forms of violence can have severe and long-lasting impact on survivors. Today, we'll be looking at women's rights, access to justice for GBV survivors, and we'll be doing this with Maryam Ibrahim program. Maryam Ibrahim is a passionate advocate for social justice and sustainable development in Nigeria. She is a legal practitioner, researcher, business consultant, and development practitioner with over 7 years of experience working in the judiciary and in the development sector. Maryam is the program officer in the Law Hub Development and Advocacy Center, where she leads the staff team to develop and execute programs in the areas of criminal justice, judicial reforms, climate justice, and human and women's rights. She's also the founder of the Let's Vote Naija Civic Engagement Program, which she educates and empowers citizens to participate in positive change in their communities. We can go on with this profile of Maryam, but let's get to meet Maryam. Hello, Maryam.
Hi, Victoria.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well.
Indeed. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
To have you. I prefer to address you as Mairo. Is that
Mairo?
Mairo. Oh, Mairo. I saw it in brackets.
Ne and Ro. It's actually my first name.
Okay. Okay.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you too.
All right. You heard what I read about GBV. People oftentimes get to hear. We've done a lot of GBV episode here on this set, and many times you go out there and people are like, what is even GBV in the first instance? Take us through gender-based violence.
Okay, so gender-based violence often denotes violence that are specifically done to a particular gender or because of the gender, and we know that this gender is women. As you just read the statistics, 1 in 3 women are affected by gender-based violence. So gender-based violence often comes in different forms. You have psychological violence, economic violence. We also have sexual violence, the one that most of us are aware of. Physical violence, where it's not just the physical, assault is not just sexual in nature. It can also be aggressive battery. We also have verbal violence. So these are the elements that make up gender-based violence. Yeah.
Okay, in your workspace, would you say gender-based violence is increasing or decreasing? With all the cases you've seen so far, what would you say of it?
Well, when you talk about my workspace, you talk about my work environment or with the work that I do?
With the work that you do, like the legal work you do. Because most times just people tends to report the cases. So would you say there have been cases and it has been trashed? Or do you receive less cases or increased cases so far?
To be honest, there is a very serious problem of underreporting of gender-based violence.
Okay.
So they're happening, but few people are reporting them. I mean, if 1 in 3 women experience gender-based violence, then what I will call the problem is in the underreporting. I'll call it a gross emergency situation.
Okay, all right. I have a statistic based on in line with that thought, which says that less than 1% of cases like this are actually reported. That's less than 1 cases, and most cases are not reported at all. And even if they are reported, they are only reported to families, friends, and not even the security personnel. And so, how you are in the legal field or the legal aspect of this, then how then do you do your job? How then do you bring these perpetrators to book? How then do you make safe heaven or space for those who are victims of gender-based violence?
I'll be very honest and say that there's so much that the legal system can do if you don't report your case. You get justice when you approach the courts. The courts are not going to come to you. I'm talking from my experience in the judiciary now. The court is not going to come to you and say, oh, you have been aggrieved. The court will not tell you you've been aggrieved, so seek for justice. So you understand what I mean? So we've gone back to the issue of underreporting now. Is that it's not, the burden doesn't lie on the judicial system to make people report. But I mean, there are things that we can do within the judicial system and all actors. That's from the point of, from the security agencies and even from families. There are things that we can do to make reporting more and encourage people to increase the rate of reporting and encourage survivors to want to seek justice.
Okay, follow-up questions. Now, why do you think people do not report this, victims do not report in the first place? Because I don't see when something harmful as that comes to me, why shouldn't I just go out and say it? Perhaps I'm not a victim yet, but why do you think, with the cases you've handled so far, why do you think there's actually underreporting?
Okay, so recently we went to my organization. We conducted a legal aid clinic in the Area 1 IDP camp in Durumi. So I'll give you cases, live cases from that experience. A lot of the women who had experienced gender-based violence reported family as one of the reasons why they don't come forward to report gender assault, gender-based assaults. Family, financial reasons, they feel like they don't have enough resources to follow through. Because I don't want to assume and say we all know how the system works, but a lot of times when you report cases to the police, you're also actively involved. From the experience I have, you're also actively involved in, will I say, facilitating investigations and all of that. So people think from the point of resources, do I have the money to go through this journey? And then there's also societal stigma, apart from family will tell you not to report, finances to, the fear of not having maybe the finances to, explore actually reporting your case up to the point of seeking justice in the courts. You have societal stigma. You don't want people to identify you or brand you as someone that has gone through sexual assault before. And so these are some of the challenges that these women face. And again, some women, you'd be surprised that, like you said, you've been talking about gender-based violence for some time. I assume because last month, some of the days of the 16 days of activism. Exactly. But then you'd also be shocked that people don't know about these laws that can protect them. There's this report called Womanity Index. The report was done by this organization called Invictus Africa. I think you should, there's a lot to learn when you read the report. So I'll share it with you after the program. I mean, from that report, some of the insights that they got was that about 38% of people were not, conversant with these laws. My use of conversant here does not mean you must be a legal practitioner and know these laws true and true. Is that some of these laws and policies in place to protect survivors of gender-based violence are not well known. Some people don't even know they have legal options. Like the outreach we did, where we provided free legal advice to, women or people that have been affected by gender-based violence. Many of them, I think about 90% of them did not know anything about protective laws that are in place to protect them or to help them seek justice when they found themselves in this unfortunate position of being survivors of gender-based violence.
Okay, but can you highlight some of those laws and rules for people out there watching, just the common ones that they should know about even before getting to read the laws?
So the primary one is the VAP Act. I'm sure if you've had this program, you've heard VAP.
Sure.
Okay, so Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015. But the federal system in which we operate, there's the act and then there are the laws.
Yes.
So majority of states have actually domesticated these laws, this VAP Act, or something similar to what is contained in the VAP Act as laws in their states. I think all the states in Nigeria,
about 30.
I think except one, if I'm not mistaken, have domesticated this act. We also have the Child's Rights Act, and a lot of states in Nigeria, I think almost all. I don't want to give figures that I'm not 100% sure of. So the Child's Rights Act is also one of the primary laws that shield people, shield children especially, against some of these horrible crimes.
Okay, how accessible will you say the legal system is to these GBV survivors? Because we've gotten cases where people reported their cases, but there was no follow-up, or they didn't get to their final destination. Just only one case, beside this program, just one case we saw went to court and got justice. Either they will stop at the way, or something, they will not finish the case. Okay. How accessible is the legal system to the poor masses?
When it comes to getting justice and, prosecuting cases that have to do with gender-based violence, I want an understanding to come that it doesn't, start or end with the legal system. But in my own opinion, I don't believe that the legal system is entirely accessible when it comes to these issues. Is the platform there? Are the laws there? Yes. But we need to think about the issues that lead up, the processes that lead up before you finally find yourself within the court system. Usually when women experience gender-based violence, you'd often, as a woman, I would often my first instinct would be, if that's when I'm ready to speak up, would be to tell someone that I trust.
Yeah.
Now, do we even have safe communities for that? Then you now take it, according to this Womanity Index report, it's a very rich report. I encourage you again to read it. The research that they conducted found that the first point of call for many survivors, you know, or people in general, would be the police. So then you have the police. But to answer your question directly, the legal system, is it accessible? It's as accessible as the legal system is to every other case. The prosecuting bodies that usually would handle these cases, we have the police. If you take this issue, like I said, if you report to the police, it's the police that would charge the suspect, the perpetrator. Exactly. So the police will now, the matter leaves your hand as the person that has reported, and it becomes a state issue. That if police is not the prosecutor, then you're thinking of agencies such as NAPTIP. Do you understand? So there's a lead up before we go to the legal system. Yes, so that's just what I want to explain.
Okay, you've said a lot about, still follow-up questions. Section 34 of the 99 Constitution, as amended, provides that every individual is entitled to respect for the dignity of his or her person, and accordingly, no person shall be subjected to torture or inhuman or degrading treatment. We also have the Violence Against the Persons Prohibition Act 2015, which you already mentioned, which also states that a person who batters his or her spouse commits offense and is liable on conviction to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 3 years, or to a fine not exceeding 200,000 naira. Let's talk about the implementation now. Do you think, in terms of implementing this whole thing, like, it has gained some form of momentum? You are in the field. What do you think?
Well, I think my response, I don't like the fact that I'm almost repeating my response consecutively. But for these laws to be implemented, people have to take their cases to court. Not people, like the agent. You report them, the prosecuting agencies will take it to court. Laws cannot be implemented if, there cannot be enforcement of these laws if, a judge, for example, doesn't give a verdict and then, if the fine or the sentence is now followed through. You understand what I mean?
So what you're saying is, okay, in essence, the fact that the onus still remains on the people and not even in the legal system yet, because...
No, the legal system has a huge part to play. I don't want to be misunderstood. Yeah. But one of the issues you guys are very interested in what the legal system is there to do. One of the issues that I've found with prosecuting cases of gender-based violence, I have to clarify the fact that I'm not actively in litigation. So I don't wear the wig and gown and do this stuff, but my work in the field has exposed me to these issues. The burden of proof in the Nigerian judicial system, it lies on the prosecution beyond reasonable doubt. Now, when it comes to, gender-based violence, whether it's physical battery or whether it's sexual, the onus has not shifted. It still lies on the prosecution, and beyond reasonable doubt, it's a long stretch. And I think that's some of the issues that we should consider reforming when we want to see the efficacy of the legal system in actually getting, justice for victims of gender-based violence. Yes.
All right, still talking. Earlier you said perhaps you noticed that the laws are not known by women out there. They're not conversant with the laws. Like, perhaps they know that something like this exists, but they don't really understand it. So what methods of awareness do you think can be taken? Is there need for awareness, and what method of awareness should be taken to create, perhaps, bring it to the people so they can know?
So one of the solutions to me is we have to now start addressing it by the way you even asked the question. It's like you spoke about women knowing. I feel like it's not a one-sided war. It's not a me against them. And that's some of the approaches that I feel has been stifling the progress of this fight against gender-based violence. It's a we thing. We the women, we the men, everybody together in this. And informing men is one of the steps, is as important as informing women about gender-based violence, because women do not stand alone in society. It takes two of these genders plus others to make up society as a whole. And when everyone is informed, it makes it easier. I'll give you this example. In the university, I was very low-key in the sense of activism or all of these things. I was just living my life. But my friend had an unpleasant encounter when she went to one of our classmates' house. And according to him, I took it up and addressed it with him, you know. And to him, he contacted me with this story to tell me later that it was a very powerful learning moment for him about what he should do when he's around women, or what he shouldn't do when he's around women. And information, we should not be tired of sharing these information. And when we talk about accessibility, sometimes we make laws a very elite thing. I mean,
yes,
you know, if you
only for the elite.
You know, if you even read through most of, like the layman, as we say, I don't support it, but as we say, will not pick up a law and you know, understand it. I don't believe in making laws so hard to read, you know. But one thing we can also do is to simplify these laws. Do you understand? Having conversations like this also help. Somebody can tune in and know, so the insults that, you know, this person has been insulting me because I'm in their house or because I'm a woman is also a form of gender-based violence. Yeah. So this information, or, you know, simplifying these laws in our local languages. I mean, we have hundreds of languages in Nigeria. But these laws are written in English, not just English, very strong and firm English.
Most times it's boring to read. You can just open it and slip off.
With all the sections, A, B, C, and D.
Exactly. So simplifying these laws will make them accessible in our local languages. One, talking about it on, you know, radio stations, not as these big laws as they are, but in a way that the majority of Nigerians will be able to understand. And communication is a two-way thing. If you're talking and the person you're speaking to does not understand what you're saying, you're still not communicating. So simplifying the laws is also one way we can get more people informed.
Okay, now, are there specific challenges in the legal system that hinders the effective prosecution of GBV cases, and how can this be addressed?
Okay. So in the legal system, the challenges in the legal system, they exceed, you know, persecuting gender-based violence cases. But one thing is, we need to see gender case violence as a specialized crime, in the sense that now I'm talking about the issue of rape, for example, is a crime. If you go to the courts in the FCT now, there are specific courts that are assigned cases when they come under maybe EFCC, fraud. Do you understand? So the judges that are specialized in these things. Do you understand? Maybe with extra training, experience, and all of that. So if we have judges, you know, that specialized judges to hear these cases and try these cases, I feel like it could improve these the issues we can find in the legal system with regards to gender-based violence cases. Another one is mobile courts. Now, when we talk about these legal solutions, for it not to be too exclusive, you cannot, there are villages that you cannot find courts in. Do you understand? And it's, for example, if they're trying, if you know, let's assume a case of gender-based violence is in court, and you as the survivor are maybe supposed to be a witness, or there are witnesses that you want to call, you know, all in you know, line with giving evidence, and then the court is all the way in the city, hundreds of kilometers away from you. That's not access to justice. So I think it's time for us to consider, you know, solutions in the legal sector, such as even mobile courts, where courts will be nearer to people, and mobile and even specialized courts. These solutions, I feel like, are things that as a country we can consider, and the judiciary should heavily look into providing these types of, you know, options and solutions, just to make the war against gender violence more inclusive.
All right, Maryam, we have more questions for you, but before we continue, let's quickly go on a short break, viewers. When we return, Engender continues. Stay with us.
Please, girls, let's be fast with our chores. It's almost time for Engendered.
Girls, it's time for your favorite program, Engendered.
Yeah, Mommy, we're coming right away. Sophia, turn off the gas. What are your fears as a woman? And what are your doubts as a lady? You think you're alone with those thoughts? Then welcome to Engendered, where we bring you discuss, interviews, reviews, experiences, opinions, and issues relating to the female gender. This is Engendered.
My name is Sheila BCFR, the Black Comedian of the Federal Republic. I tell you, when it comes to the best of entertainment, the best of news, the best of information, something that is educative, you're right here at the best place to see that. It's KAFTAN TV. Do you know what? Increase the volume. Keep watching. Don't touch the dial, okay?
It's your girl Nkechi Blessing Sunday. I want you all to keep watching KAFTAN TV.
Please keep watching KAFTAN TV. It is the best civil station in the country. They're doing an amazing job. Please do not touch the dial. Keep watching. Thank you.
My name is Sheila BCFR.
Welcome back to the program. You're still on Engendered, a program where we discuss everything that relates to the female gender. And if you're just joining us, this is the second half. We've been talking women's rights, access to justice for gender-based violence survivor, with our beautiful guest who is seated here, Maryam Ibrahim, aka Mairo. I like the Mairo so much.
I like it too.
Okay, earlier you were talking about accessibility. Do you think technology or the traditional means can have a role to play in bringing this legal system to the people?
Absolutely. Technology should be something that, like, the push for technology in our legal system as a whole should be something that we should not tire of pushing for. It makes everything easier. I mean, now in some states you can receive judgments via Zoom. That's commendable, you know, instead of all parties traveling from, let's say, Lagos to Abuja now, with one-way ticket at how much? No, justice is getting more expensive and more expensive, and if technology can make it more accessible, then why not? You know, giving evidence via Zoom, for example, I mean, that could go a long way in addressing some of these issues. You know, how many people even want to come forward and give evidence in cases of gender-based violence? Most people don't want to be that person, especially when it's a family issue now, you know. You don't want to put certain family members in such a position. So when another thing again that can, you know, improve how we handle these cases within the legal system, you know, witness protection, shielding witnesses in this type of issues so that more witnesses can come forward. Like I said earlier, the burden of proof still lies on the prosecution. So a lot of times, lack of evidence gets these cases thrown out. It's not like they did not happen, but can you prove beyond reasonable that it did happen? Yeah. So talking about technology, I think the role of technology in all cases, not even just gender-based violence cases in our courts.
Okay, technology is actually a good thing. It's making everything very easy, every sector. But now when we talk about the rural areas, most times those people in the village, they don't have access to internet. They don't imagine you talking about Zoom call. How will those people now access it?
You know, digital rights is a real thing. It's actually a type of right, and the fact that many people don't even have access to the wider, you know, internet space is, you know, terrible on its own. But for those institutions, I mean, before we went on, while we were on break, we're talking about local
means of settling issues like that.
Of settling these issues. Accessible, that does not say like the formal way where these laws are properly implemented, you know. For me, it's king. And I'll say it's king because in the VAP Act, for example, you have, you know, register for sexual offenders. The local, you know, set way of settling these gender-based violence issues might not have, you know, such a provision. And the problem I often, you know, find, you know, with these local means of settling issues with gender-based violence is we can't deny that there is, you know, an acceptance of gender-based violence in our societies.
That's a challenge.
Even us that we have access to internet, your religious leader might tell you, oh, go back to your house, it can be sorted. Your members of your community, then you can now imagine those types of intervention. When interventions are not exactly formal, you don't have much control as to the rules. The rules can shift at any time. Who makes the rules?
Could that be the reason why they said that there seems to be like a gap in justice system, especially when it comes to women? It doesn't tend in every tendency becomes favorable to the women. Like there's a gap in the justice system.
Well, on that note, you are now talking about Nigeria as a patriarchal society. Well, our laws are patriarchal, everywhere, for example. So if that's what you are talking about, then I'd agree with you that indeed our laws seem to have a patriarchal, you know, a patriarchal view of expressing themselves. In that line, I would definitely agree with you.
Okay. So talking about addressing this issue, you spoke about police. Okay, so I'll give you an experience. I had heard from someone I knew, I beg your pardon. The lady was like, okay, that she had someone who was experiencing gender-based violence. So when they took her to the police station, although she had confided in her as a lawyer to take up the case, but then when she got to the police station, all of a sudden, she said she was no longer interested in the case, that it was not true at all, that her husband never violated her and the likes. And the lady was like surprised, but you came to me and told me that your husband violated you. And it happened again, the second time, when they went to the police station, she she retracted her statement and said it didn't happen. So you will notice there that there seems to be like some form of tension with the woman. So how do we encourage women to speak up? Because most times women, unlike now, perhaps in the social media now, you see a lot of divorce and the likes, and they are divorcing for one reason or other, but mostly gender-based violence. They ascribe it to gender-based violence, but it hasn't gotten to the roots, the rural areas. So such kind of exposures. When you ask the man now, the man will say, "Hey, she's still exposed now. That's why she divorced." You get it. So they feel like a woman owning to her own rights, saying no to some kind of things, it means that she's just too exposed, and that's why she has decided to divorce the man. So, what advice? How do we get women to begin to speak up in terms of gender-based violence?
You were talking about the police strengthening institutions. If the person in question was comfortable enough to tell her lawyer, you know, these are the issues, this is what I faced, and all of a sudden, like you said, the environment, did I quote you right? In the police station or something. But when we strengthen institutions and we prepare them to respond to trauma, when people demand, well, I must say that the police, in every police station, there's supposed to be a gender desk, you know, for these types of issues. Then their gender units, the police has a gender unit, and I think the gender unit is present in every police command. But are we sensitive to trauma, the way we respond to trauma? As a whole, as a society. Some people may not even acknowledge trauma. So it's very possible that in this instance you gave, the lawyer presented a safe space for this particular lady.
Yeah,
and when she went to the police station, the story changed completely for her. Now, with gender-based violence, a lot of times is a very traumatic issue. And that's why it's not, most people don't casually speak about it. That's why conversations like this are extremely important, because there's a lot around it, you know. A trauma already is an injury. Then you think of other things that are associated with it, like shame and all of that. So creating an environment that supports, you know, women, that encourages women to come out, strengthening our institutions. And how do we even strengthen these institutions? Training, retraining, overtraining, in fact, of these policemen. For example, like I told you in at the beginning of the program, that a report done called Womanity Index, done by Invictus Africa, found that most people will go to the police, you know, when faced with this type of challenge. So are we training our police men and women enough to handle these cases in a sensitive way, not just handle it by the book? I know that there are guidelines and protocols they have to follow, but are they actually following them? You know, are they exuding empathy when they handle these issues? Because for something as sensible as that, when you're met with hostility when you're reporting, it's natural that you pull away. In fact, the courage that it takes to report is another thing. You know, that's why sensitization. The groundwork is being done by a lot of women organizations to build this courage to report. Then you now go to report and you're met with someone that, even if the person doesn't understand, the person is not empathetic to you. The survivor is now being treated as
the victim.
You know.
So, but then I'd love to ask still, what's the best way to handle or treat a victim, one who has become a survivor? Because I often hear that they are scared of stigmatization, and because the society is perhaps this the typical way of handling things, and like, oh, she has been raped before, she was attacked before, oh, she's divorced her husband, she couldn't stay with her man, she couldn't cope. You know, what's the best way to handle situations?
So I'll merge it with something that we've spoken about earlier, like, community and local interventions for these types of issues. I was having a conversation a couple of weeks back with Fatima Askira. She's the founder of an organization doing excellent work in Borno called Baudi. And she was telling me about some of the approaches her organization used to, address issues of gender-based violence among communities in Borno State. We all know that Borno State has been suffering from insurgency for a very long time. So you're not just dealing with gender-based violence, you're dealing with gender-based violence in an environment of conflict. So, in fact, I told her, after she discussed it with me, I told her that she should hurry up and write a course, draw up a curriculum. They do a community-based approach, before they get, they have processes before they get there, but they make it so that men, women, children, everyone in the community, the build-up, the process that involves, what it results to is that men, women, children, everybody in the community can sit in a room and comfortably, well, not comfortably, there's a level of comfort when discussing these issues, but can, honestly talk about gender-based violence. What this does is crashes stigma that follows gender-based violence issues. Because if I'm in a room, my father is there, my mother is there, my brothers are there, and so for other community members. And we are as a unit of community, and we can freely talk about these issues and brew homegrown, ingrown solutions within our communities to tackle these issues. Then the issue of stigma has been addressed in communities that are able to achieve that get to that level, So talking about it and not just making it a girls issue, that when we're talking about gender-based violence, it's not just to draw girls on one side and say, okay, you're not supposed to do this is not right to you. When we make it like, this is not right, this is your rights and all that, when we make it a community issue and brew solutions within communities. In fact, she was even telling me how, like, there are volunteers within communities that have charged themselves with addressing these issues, And when you talk about these things as a community, somebody now knows that when he sees somebody rough handling a girl, for instance, or catcalling a child, he knows to say stop. Because it's a general knowing in the community that this is wrong. There's general knowing in the community that some of our women are suffering gravely from the effects of this. Some people don't even know the extent of psychological trauma, rape, for instance, causes. Some people don't know the extent of trauma, verbal abuse causes. Some people have PTSD from verbal abuse. Yes. Do you understand? But when we talk about this thing and there's awareness about it, it crashes the power of stigma.
Indeed.
Now, in your own opinion, how do you think GBV survivors can heal from all these traumas you just spoke about?
I don't know if I'm qualified to have an opinion about how a person can heal from trauma, but psychological services, should be prioritized in the way we handle gender-based violence cases. I mean, we've spoken about judiciary, we've spoken about police, we've spoken about women organizations, but not once have even we here spoken about, psychological interventions, help. Seeing therapists is expensive, for instance. Actually. So, are we funding, are we providing psychological solutions, Are we prioritizing it as a sort of health service that goes along with, catering to survivors of gender-based violence? But here's the thing. I feel like I should talk about it. I'm talking about budgeting a lot. We need to, as a nation, start to model our budgets to be gender responsive. For example, if the police have a forensic, forensic systems in place to maybe check someone that has reported gender-based violence to instantly get evidence of this crime. I believe it would drastically reduce the number of cases of rape, for example, that are being thrown out in our courts. So yes, to answer your question, though,
Okay.
we should prioritize psychological.
Okay, still talking about helping those who are survivors. Most times, I know back then in the days when people are interested in other people's affairs, not because perhaps they want to spy or they want to just be enemies in your affairs or your business in any way, but if they see perhaps a woman beating her husband or the husband beating his wife, they tend to like interfere. I remember a child where a child was beaten severely by the mother to the extent that she made the child sit on the stove, and it was in Kaduna then, and then a neighbor reported the mother, and NAPTIP took up the case, and then the mother was arrested. Okay, and ensured that, of course, she faced the consequence. These days, it just seems as though people mind their business, and when the husband is beating the woman, nobody wants to even intervene in any way. People just go about their own business. But then, do you think the society can help in ending gender-based violence by perhaps supporting one with the other?
Absolutely. I feel like the onus is on all of us to speak out, to do something. Nobody is too small to do something. Speaking up is, there's a way humans work. If one person says something is right in a room of 10, you can ignore that person. When 4 people, then we'll now stop, and the remaining 6 people might stop to listen. Okay, why are they saying this thing is wrong? So each and every person in society has a role to play. I spoke about our organization earlier, Law Hub Development and Advocacy Center. Primarily, so far the works we've done borders around criminal justice, the criminal justice sector, and judicial reform. However, when we thought to ourselves as an organization, how can we come in, to lend a hand? There's a gap when it comes to access to justice, undeniably. How many people can afford the lawyers? How many people can, how many people even know their rights? We just spoke about, the amount of people who have no idea about these laws. And that's why we took the intervention we did to the IDP camp, and we provided free legal advice using volunteer lawyers, lawyers who had volunteered for in the organization to provide this advice. And with that, a lot of women, the response that we got, the feedback that we got from the women we reached, that was about 14. I mean, it was a one-day outreach. But from that, every single woman that we spoke to felt more empowered by the knowledge that she had. So we made responding to gender-based violence issues our problem as an organization. Do you understand?
Yeah.
It's not something that we are currently funded for. It's our organization took it upon ourselves to provide the solution. So I feel like every organization, every person should make the issue, women's issue, their problem. This issue is so prevalent, 1 in 3 women. No, it goes beyond what your mission and vision for your organization is. It goes beyond what your business is as a person daily. It is our collective business. to find a way to collectively end gender-based violence once and for all, as you know, a society as a whole. Yeah.
Okay, time is not on our side. I would have loved to ask you, because we seem to kind of focus majorly on, well, this is a women's program, but I also know that men go through this same gender-based violence. Well, we'll get to talk about that perhaps in another episode. Well, just like Maryam has said, that it's all our collective business. Okay, do not say, nah, she's the one that married the man now. The man is the one that married the woman, and make it like it's not your business at all. It doesn't concern you. And when you see people who are survivors, please, there's a way you can show them love. Do show them love, and just know that it could happen to anybody, and then you're not exempted in any way. Well, that's all we can take on Engender this evening. Thank you, Maryam, once again for being a part of this program, and we hope that when next we call upon you, you're going to answer us.
Thank you for the invite.
All right, then, viewers. Like I said, that's the much you can take. I am Victoria Agbi.
I am Pamela Ajaero. The world cannot just change. Everyone has a role to play. Make an effort, positive effort, so the world and society can change. Bye for now.